sit down, sit down, sit down.
It's so dark, I can't see the standing ovation.
That's so nice. Well, thank you all for being here. I'm Vanessa Bayer. You may.
Hold for applause.
I guess I need no introduction. Okay, you guys didn't think that was funny. So this is Paul, Gillian, and Judd, and let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, thank you.
We just watched an episode from their wonderful show, Love, and now we're going to talk about it a little bit, and then we're going to take some of your questions. So let's dive right in.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Yes.
I feel like we're in a sketch of some kind.
I know, it does feel.
I don't know what the premise of the sketch is yet.
Yeah, but we'll figure. I think it has to do with our mics are so strong, right? Did you think you're going to be able to hear yourself so well?
No.
But then as it goes on, it'll get louder and louder.
And we'll see how many people stay. So to start out, how did this project, this show Love, come together?
How did it come together? Well, I, for a long time had a couple of TV ideas sitting in a notebook, and one was just to do a show about a couple and really explore the couple. And the name of the show was Trainwreck, and I stole the title, but I thought it'd be interesting to see a couple that you knew was going to break up. So the premise, which isn't the premise here, but the premise was, what if you followed a couple and the whole series you knew that at the end of the series, they break up? I guess that's like How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
An inverted How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
But it was just sitting in a notebook. And then one day, Paul and I were working on Pee-wee's Big Holiday. Thank you.
Whoa!
And Paul said that him and his wife, Lesley, were talking about a show a little bit based on their lives, actually a movie. And then I started kicking around this thought, and they had their thought, and then one day we said, maybe this is the same thing.
Yeah, put them together. And I'm happy we did that, because we could have made a movie and nobody would have come to see it.
Yeah.
And,
It could have been Pluto Nash.
that was the original title, Pluto Nash 2. But then, and actually it ended up serving it really well, because I feel like with the TV show, I'm going to say something everybody knows, so get ready. But like television, it's the perfect medium to deepen and explore characters. So something that would have been maybe a 2-hour movie that you don't get much time to hang out with the characters, this ended up being something that was
I just wanted to make longer movies. So this is 12 episodes. That's like 6 hours. That has always been my goal, this 6-hour romantic comedy. And now people watch, how many people here watched the whole first season in one sitting?
How?
Well, that's all I ever wanted.
Yeah.
But you make a movie that's like 2 hours and 3 minutes, and people are like, I can't handle it. This is 40 minutes too long. But people will watch like 11 episodes of Narcos in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that.
You do? Do you watch a lot in a row?
I watched Narcos, yeah.
Yeah. See, I forget the story. So if I watch, if I binge and then I have to wait a year, that's the only weird part about binging. You have to wait a year.
Right.
You forget the whole show. So when Narcos season 2 came out, I kept thinking, wait a second, is he a good guy or a bad guy? I forgot the whole premise.
Right. So Paul, you were saying, so without like asking you too much personal information, in what way is this sort of based on real, like, when you and Lesley were sort of coming up with this?
I have a question. Is it Leslie or Lesley? Because my wife says it's Lesley.
Your wife is Lesley. My wife is Lesley.
So she wants to be Lesley.
Lesl's Dezzles.
Oh, that's it.
That's the way you remember
Because
it.
my wife, out of the blue, 20 years into the relationship, went, by the way, it's not Leslie, it's Lesley. I was like, you waited a long time to clarify that.
My Lesley was like, my name's Lesley, not Tammy. I was like, I'd been calling her Tammy this whole time. No, it's not. It's very loosely based.
Right,
I
right,
mean,
right.
all the bad parts that annoy people. That's another couple.
Yeah, of course.
All the good stuff that you like about the couple.
Yes.
That's us.
Yeah.
But no, actually, when we pitched it to Judd, it was sort of the idea was like, oh, it's a couple who's like us, who's been through therapy, and they're on the other side.
Right.
And they want to now have a healthy relationship. And Judd was like, boring. Nobody wants to see that show. Two healthy people.
Yeah.
So he was like, you got to dial back their like self-awareness and their own therapy. So then we started messing things up for them.
Got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
So I was talking to my best friend Gwen, who you've met, Judd, and
Yes.
Stefani, name drop.
Sorry. And she was saying that she was going. We were talking about the show, and she was saying she was going through a particularly tough relationship when she was watching season 1, and she said that I could say that in front of everybody.
What were the specifics of her relationship?
Well, it was just like the guy was so. Well, so basically, she was saying like that she couldn't believe how well the show captures like modern relationships. For example, even just like what happens in season 1 and 2, like the texting someone and then like erasing the text and then being like, maybe I'll see you later, and when that happens and when that doesn't happen, and just like all of the things that we have to deal with now that texting basically is a thing, and that you can. So how are you guys able to sort of capture that? It's just so it's so relatable in a way that I think is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's the pressure that everybody has to be like Oscar Wilde. You know, be like, the
Right.
pithiest, cleverest thing I could possibly say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is tough.
I stopped trying to be clever on texts. Every single text, I just put 3 exclamation marks. That's all I got. Dude, my kids, like, I don't know what to say to them. They don't want to talk to me at all on text. They're so mad. If I'm like, how's it going? They're like, fine. And then I'll just send them, just like a Santa Claus emoji for no reason. It doesn't even make sense. It's like, I don't even know how to communicate to people anymore. But I know how people do it. I would have been good as a nerd with text if I was single, because there was no text back then. We were using modems. I was faxing people. Witty remarks.
Did you do fun faxes?
No.
Fun faxes?
Fun
I
facts.
was liking to imagine you and Adam Sandler faxing
No.
funny things.
Yeah.
No, I was just stalking people.
Oh,
That was
good
my
too.
thing. I would just like show up at their place of work. Did you do that? Were you, because you've been in a relationship for a while, did you have to do a lot of texting, dating?
no, I have never online dated, so I don't feel like I know what's going on in the world, but Paul knows that I will try and interfere with the crew's dating life and write their online messages for them and try and cultivate their dating profiles. To little to no success, but I'm very persistent.
Yeah.
I think you helped out Mike Mitchell, who you saw on the show. I think you made stuff work for Mike.
Whoa.
I just hound him.
Yeah.
He's so easy to embarrass. And so I just love to just ask him relentlessly what's going on in his dating life.
Yeah. I think of it as like you can mark sort of the beginning and end of a relationship based on how you respond to getting some of these texts. Like initially, when you like the person and it comes up, you just get this like rush of endorphins and adrenaline, and you know it's over when you get their text or they call and you see it, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
I gotta do. Remember 2 weeks ago when I was so excited?
When it was so exciting. Yeah. Gillian, do you relate? So your character Mickey obviously makes a lot of, she makes a lot of choices, and I wonder, like, do you relate to her? Are you rooting for her, or do you feel like frustrated at times by the choices that she makes? And
If she was my friend, I would be very frustrated. As an actress, all of her mistakes are a great gift. So I am very excited by the fact that she's not learning her lessons.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, some of what she does is very concerning. The episode you just watched, that's very reckless behavior for someone who's very newly sober. I would not recommend doing that. But I also feel like she's braver than I am, so she probably ends up having more fun than I do. The highs are higher and the lows are lower for Mickey Dobbs than for Gillian Jacobs. So I'm sort of like in the middle.
yeah.
Because you
Nebraska.
you claim to never have done anything. Drinking, pot,
I've never drank.
Anything.
I've never done a drug.
Dayquil, NyQuil?
I accidentally once took NyQuil instead of Dayquil, and then I got a call like, "We need you on set for Community," and I drove to work like, woo! But yeah, I've never done illegal drugs ever.
Wow.
That all changes tonight. This guy's your friend. That was a
Is it a-
pantomime
A
bong.
pantomime- Yeah, I could tell.
My space work?
It's a bong with many parts. But you have, Paul.
Yeah, actually, it was very funny. The scene where Gus and Mickey get high for the first time. It was like Freaky Friday, basically how the roles were
Yeah.
reversed. So like she was watching me to learn how to do it like a real pro. And then I was watching her like fumble with it. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And then, yeah, so we were able to do it. But no, I haven't smoked pot since the 60s.
What, was some of the, so talking about this episode that we just watched, was some of that, like the coyote stuff, like was that big? It was so specific. Even, I think Gillian tells you to like lower your center of gravity, and like the way that you walk when you're, like so much of it seems so specific. Is any of that behavior based on someone's real drug trip?
Yeah.
Who followed the coyote? Because we had everyone just in the sitting in the house doing mushrooms, and then I remember we said we got to get him out of the house. And,
Right.
Well, how would we get him running around? And somebody said maybe they just see a coyote and think it knows something, and
Yeah.
that is
Well,
what usually happens.
I think it came out of just Los Angeles sort of has a coyote culture.
Yeah.
I feel like
We do.
every other chapter in a Bret Easton Ellis novel is usually somebody like staring down a coyote.
Collateral, right? Isn't that a big?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love Michael Mann, so.
Yeah, you knew.
Oh, yeah.
You knew. When I went to Collateral, a woman was coming down out of the steps and she tripped and she fell in front of us. And all my friends were like, oh, bad for her.
It just said
Story.
bad
Good
for
story.
her.
Good story.
Wait, what?
You didn't help her up?
She had a couple friends who helped her up. We like stood up and were like, watch season 2, March 10th, guys. That was a bad story. No, I think it came out of, in Los Angeles, there's just coyotes everywhere.
Yeah.
And they are unafraid of people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they will stare you down and try and kill your pets.
Oh, man.
They killed my friend's dog the other day.
Oh.
I know, but then I was like, why is your dog outside? You live near the coyotes.
Yeah.
Did you want your dog to get?
Yeah.
Because I have 3 dogs, and
You have 3 dogs?
I do, but we treat them like chickens. We just put them outside, and they peck around. But I'm a little concerned because I bought them when my kids were little, and then my kids, one's in college, the other one's about to go to college, and I know that they're gonna live longer than my kids are in the house. And then I'm worried about the years when my kids aren't around, and it's just me and my wife and these 3 old incontinent dogs. Like we finally waited to like have our empty nest, and then we're just overseeing hip operations for Curly.
right.
So you leave him outside, and the coyotes get him.
Circle of life.
Speaking of your kids, your daughter Iris is in this show.
She is.
So
She plays
great.
Aria.
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. in it. What is it like working with her?
The other day I said to her, I said, Iris, I might direct one of the episodes. I want to like direct the one you're in a lot. And she's like, please don't do that. I'm like, don't you want me to direct you? She's like, no, it's like, that's what's fun, is like, you're not there. Yeah, she is,
Yeah.
yeah, she's weird that way because she's very comfortable on the set. Like, I think she's more comfortable there than anywhere. So it's not like she's nervous, but she's also not that excited about the show being out there. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
She's both excited and really disinterested. At the same time, she's very into like, she's like on Instagram, and so all these kids are like obsessed with looking good on Instagram, and I'm always trying to get her off of it. you know, because they just, you know, you get scared about it because, you know, she's 14 and she'll put up a picture and it's a really inappropriate picture. And I'll be like, you gotta take that down. She's like, why? I'm like, because you like show skin when you're in a bathing suit. Why? Guys show their six packs. And I'm like, you gotta take it down. She's like, why? People saw me on the beach in a bathing suit. What's the big deal if they see me in a bathing suit on Instagram? I'm like, you gotta take it down. She's like, you're slut shaming me. I'm like, I don't think that's the right phrase there. This is sexual harassment, Dad. These are white people problems.
Do her friends watch the show? Is there?
I have not gotten any buzz of them watching it or showing any interest in it. And you know, I always thought, okay, I'll have kids. My kids will think I am so cool. I produce fucking Superbad. They could give a shit. I've never had a kid walk in that house like, hey, how's it going? Nothing. It's little, it's, I don't know. It's
You
like,
gotta get into Disney Channel programming, and then like.
they don't care at all. I don't think kids think anybody's cool. Like if you're older than a certain age, you just suck.
Yeah.
Like if I put on Led Zeppelin in the car, my daughter looks at me like I put on Chubby Checker. And then I start questioning it. I'm like, is Led Zeppelin bad? So I get no hip factor. But she's super funny and very natural, and there's a lot of stuff this season with her that's funny.
Yeah.
The example from the first season that I love is when she's like kind of defending your character and she's like, he just doesn't understand the campy nature of the show. Like it's such a smart thing for
Yes.
like a young person to say, and she says it so naturally.
And that's what they're like. Like she binges the whole season of shows. But it's never like a show that's like 6 episodes. It's always like a show that was on for 11 years. So she's like, I'm gonna binge Grey's Anatomy. And then for 4 months, there's nothing on the TV except people dying on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
She cried.
That's a lot. So a lot of the topics on the show are kind of heavy, like you kind of cover addiction and self-sabotage and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to hear about how that works in the writer's room and how you kind of balance that with humor so that it's still fun to watch.
Yeah, no. It's a tough balance, but I think like that's really where the Apatow touch comes in, because like if you, that guy, because it's a lot easier, if you're doing comedy that's grounded, it's a little easier to then shift over into a dramatic scene. It's not like we're doing Ace Ventura, and then like we have to go like, Ace Ventura, you have cancer.
Right.
Well, all righty then.
It's actually, you should.
That would be good. Ace Ventura gets cancer. Ready for that green light, Hollywood. But yeah, so I think as long as the comedy sort of stays in a real place, it's a little easier than to tackle the bigger subjects. Yes?
And I guess this is a very hard question to answer. I'll preface by saying that and still ask it. What made you sort of want to tackle those big issues? I told you it was hard.
It's interesting. I was telling Judd, like in college, I saw Freaks and Geeks, and I fell in love with it.
So great.
And yeah. And for 4 years, in college, every play, every scene I ever wrote was just a ripoff of Freaks and Geeks because I loved it so much. And, it's very sincere, very earnest. And when I got done with it and I looked at everything I read, I was so mortified about everything that I was so sincere about. And it really scared me off that for the next 10 years, I did nothing but absurdist, bizarre sketch comedy stuff because I'm like, I don't ever want to be in a place where I feel exposed or vulnerable. And then, but I guess the thing that got me to do it was to do it with the fella who's great at that. So that reason I wanted to do it, I guess, is because I felt ready, and Lesley, my wife, who we co-created the show with, felt ready, and she's much braver than me too, so she was able to push us along, and and I think ultimately the feeling that somebody could watch it and go, oh, I felt that too, so now I feel less alone. That's the thing that kind of pushes you to do it. I was at an ATM getting some money out, brag, and
How much money?
like $60. 3 20s. And this dude. This fella came walking up to me, and he was like jacked, and he had like a ponytail, and he had obviously just gotten out of the gym, and he was walking up to me. I was like, uh-oh, what's this gonna be? And he came up to me, and he put out his fist, and he went, did, thanks for the vulnerability. So that's why I do it. So me and the bros can connect.
Cool. That's a great. Speaking of vulnerability, at the end of the episode, your character, towards the end of the episode, she asks Gus, who is your character, if you're a fuck up, and then your character says, no, you're not. Do you think that Mickey's asking, like, wants a real answer to that, and do you think that Gus is giving one in that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think she wants him to tell her that she's not a fuck up, but I think she knows deep down that this whole night was her fucking up in some way. So I think she's impulsive. She doesn't want to feel like just because she's sober now, she can't be fun anymore. She still wants to be relevant to the group. I think maybe she worries that the reason that Birdie and Gus are enamored of her is because she's wild, so she has to stay cool to them. But she also, knows in the deeper part of herself that she's jeopardizing her sobriety doing something like that, and she's being irresponsible. So I think she's on both sides of it, as the night goes on, and it's sort of the come down after everybody's not high anymore. She's realizing that was probably, even though it turned out okay, a really dumb thing for me to do. But I think that's why these two characters work well together, is because he sees it as brave. I'd say, Gillian would say, that was a really bad idea. But Gus Cruikshan thinks she's brave. So, they're able to see the best in each other even when they're kind of acting out. And I think they're just both two people who kind of feel unlovable at their core. And so they've found someone who can affirm them, maybe for the first time.
Yeah.
And do you think that they're good for each other? Do you think Mickey and Gus are good for each other?
Depends on the day.
Yeah, I wonder, I feel like if you looked at any two people getting together, I'd probably say they're not good for each other. I would just be like,
I guess that's.
Are Sam
Sad.
and Diane good for each other?
no, we're
Yeah.
Are the Gilmore Girls good for each other?
They are. Yes.
They
Yes,
are good
yes.
for each other?
we're Larry and Balky good for each other. We don't know.
We know, and the answer was yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
they were perfect
They had.
for each other.
I'd like to do it.
I smell a gift. I smell a gift.
Why are you so desperate for gifts today?
I want a
Every
gift.
time something happens, Paul's like, it's giftable.
Your legs are up. You look like Dorf on golf.
They had us on stools at this earlier interview, and I couldn't help but feel like an 8-year-old kid, like waiting for cereal to get made for us.
Yeah, so fun. Now, I know when I worked on another project with you called Trainwreck.
Sit down, sit down.
We got to improvise a fair amount, which was really fun. Do you guys improvise on set? And
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we do. I think Judd, when he's shooting a movie, probably has more time at his disposal, so you can be a little more playful. We do, an episode takes 6 days of shooting, so sometimes we have to be choosy about when we.
And choosy moms choose Jeff.
A Jim!
that was improvisation.
That's how hot it gets.
Choosy moms choose gifts.
Just
Is it pronounced GIF or GIF?
you guys
You guys
can
will
help.
pun all day long on set. But Paul is really one of the great improvisers of all time.
Oh, Judd,
He's a
that's,
UCB legend. And so
Yeah.
It's like when he put on that bathing suit, we didn't really have that many jokes. And he said, what if I pull it up and make it look like a camel toe? That's how good he is.
I went and saw Hamilton, and every time I said it, my wife kept thinking I was saying camel toe. She's like, I'm sorry, every time you say that, I think you say camel toe. So now it's in your brains. But yeah, the people we've cast are amazing at improv, and we would be fools not to, to mind that, yeah.
Because then when you're in editing, if like a scene is terrible, which happens all the time, but you just have things to play with to try to construct something, and so my only nightmare is sitting in an editing room and going, did they say anything else? And the editor going, no. And that very rarely happens. Although, if you think about it, in 6 days to shoot a half an hour, so that means 18 days to shoot basically a movie length.
Yeah.
And when we do movies, we do them in 50 days.
Right.
So you're just moving much, much faster. But Mike Mitchell, who plays Randy, is so funny as an improviser.
Yeah.
As is Gillian.
Yes.
The Quiet Storm.
Well, Gillian was always great at improv, and then when she did Don't Think Twice.
Oh, yeah. You can't hold a grand applause for the audience.
I can't if I wasn't in it.
All
I'm just
right,
trying- You came in like a well-oiled machine.
Oh, really?
To quote our president. But this
Has
time
he
it was
said
true.
well-oiled machine? Is that a thing he says?
I think he said it about
His administration, right?
administration.
Oh, he said his administration was a
But I
well-oiled
mean it.
machine.
Yeah.
That's
You
a
let
setup
me
for so
compare
many
you
jokes.
to the Trump administration.
What kind of machine is that? What does that machine make?
The
The
improv
Trump
machine?
well-oiled machine. Improv king.
Turds. Lots of turds.
Speaking of turds,
Good segue.
I think the best friends in this show are so great, and I discovered Claudia O'Doherty, I think, about the same time you did. I discovered her as a friend. You guys discovered her as an actor and a friend.
She was in
She plays
Trainwreck.
Birdie, and she's in Trainwreck. And Chris Witowski, who plays Chris, I did a cruise ship with him. What does that mean? I worked on a cruise ship with him with Second City, so I knew him, I discovered him first. But it's interesting, you guys, usually a lot of times those best friends are just like sounding boards, but they're so funny. And I guess a question, besides just bragging that I know both of them, is that what made you decide to kind of make them so interesting in their own right, as opposed to just kind of people to talk to?
Yeah, I think it was like a, you don't want to do the thing where somebody's only service is to tell the person what they're doing is good or bad,
Right.
And so we wanted to give them some depth and complexity, and I hope we did that. But they're also, it's great because the two of them are also such amazing performers that a lot of it is, and Gillian's done this too, we'll bring people into the writer's room and we just hang out for a day and talk to them and get a vibe of what they think is funny, and then we write towards that. So
Have you guys seen Claudia's videos on YouTube?
Look them up.
Yeah,
Very
Claudia
funny.
O'Doherty has these videos that are so hilarious. And when she was on Trainwreck, we were just all in love with her and realized, oh my God, she's a genius. She's so funny and has a lot to do in the second season. But we also, we're trying to sign her up for the show. So we're like, don't tell her how good she is. Let's get her under contract first. Because we knew that she would really
we got the call
get
when
successful.
her scene in Trainwreck was being shot. We got the call in the writer's room from Judd being like, Claudia Doherty's on set right now. She is murdering. You have to come up with a part for her, which I think is every comedian's
my
dream,
God,
is
yeah.
that somebody would be like, hey, they're doing something here, so let's think about them and other things. But,
Yeah. I don't know how people do pranks on set. You know how that's a question that people
How
get
does
asked?
George Clooney
That's
do
what
it?
I'm saying. Is doesn't he have to work? How does he? But I guess, do you have?
Yeah, like somebody's like, George, okay, tinsel's in my hair, George. Very funny.
It's like, get back to work. We're paying you so much money.
Yeah.
And you're like walking around the tinsel. Yeah, why?
The only prank I've ever been around, because no one ever pranks on any set, is only done by, I guess, George Clooney. I've never heard of anybody doing pranks.
Yeah.
But when we did Anchorman, Paul Rudd would get very close to naked and sit in my director's chair and have people take Polaroid pictures of him rubbing himself on my director's chair and then leave the Polaroids on the chair. And I always want to show them or Instagram them, and he's like, don't you do it. I'm like, well, if you're going to leave Polaroids
don't
of you
leave 'em
naked,
around.
I have to show people.
Oh my God, that's very funny.
I have to say, because it's just in my head, Paul Rudd's Polaroids, okay?
Is that a pun that I didn't get?
Paul Rudd's Polaroids. I don't know.
But
Do you have an OCD or something?
Yeah,
Is that like
it-
it had to be said or
it's like
something bad
some
would happen
form
to
of
us?
pun Tourette's, where
Yeah.
if I hear it that I have. Actually, when you said Paul Rudd for a moment, I was like, Paul Rust? I did this? Which is a typical thing.
Okay, so, we're going to get onto the audience questions in a minute. I just wanted to ask you some of my own fan questions really quickly. The idea of coming up with songs to movies, like a movie, is so funny and specific. Is that a thing that you do in real life? Is that?
I wish I was that cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it came out of us trying to figure out, my friends and I, we do get together and watch movies, but we're like, that'd be pretty boring to like just sit. So we had to come up with something active. But the thing we do is on on Halloween, we'll watch like 8 scary movies in increasing amounts of terror. So we'll start with like the Garfield Halloween special, and then end with like Faces of Death 2.
Oh, God.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
yeah.
Woo! My friends and I used to watch that movie, April Fool's Day. It was like it's like from the 70s. I don't know why we were watching it. Like we were just like, this movie's so scary. And then we would watch the Amazing Mr.
Limpet?
Limpet. Yeah, it was so weird. Like it was the 90s. I don't know why we did that, but anyways, okay. Off topic. What else? Oh, one of my favorite lines from season 1 is when Heidi says the thing about, she goes like, what if the whole network is watching me and what if I'm amazing? I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
That was so great.
Yeah. Briga Heelan, she's awesome. So she was somebody like what we were talking about, where you meet the person and then you're like, oh, she's so funny, and you immediately know how to write. But like, yeah, I forget who wrote that line, because it wasn't me. But no, I love the line. Yeah, what if everybody's watching me, and what if I do amazing? Yeah, like that's a real concern. Like, oh boy, what if I knock this out of the park?
You just think she's gonna go, and what if I bomb? And then she goes, and what if I'm amazing? It's so funny. Gillian, do you ever, like, I feel like the clothing choices it's a range, but some really cool stuff that I'm always like, oh, so do you borrow, do you?
No, because I respect the wardrobe of the character so much. On Community, I would just take all the clothes at the end of the season, because it was like, we could be canceled at any moment, and this would just go to like a storage facility somewhere. But I believe that Mickey Dobbs' wardrobe should remain intact. And
So good.
One of the things I love about the show is that I do re-wear the clothes over and over again, which is a real life thing, but often in TV, you wear different clothes every episode. But the overalls that I wore in that episode and that I also wore in season 1 are mine. I can only take credit for those, really. But yes, I was shooting a movie with Bobby Moynihan and Taryn.
Yes,
and
what a great movie
yes,
that is. Yeah.
this movie called Brother Nature, and we shot it in the middle of nowhere in Oregon, and there was nothing to do, but I would go to every single store in town, and so I bought a pair of little boys' Carhartt overalls, And I took them to my tailor, and she was aghast. But I said, could you just like narrow the legs slightly, because they flare out a bit too much. And I wore them, and I think Lesley saw me wearing them, and asked that I wear them on the show. But yeah, Jennifer, who's the costume designer, is so amazing, and I'm not nearly as cool as Mickey Dobbs, so I really feel like that's a coat of armor that I put on the wardrobe that helps me feel cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not agreeing with that.
Yeah, and Lesley Arfin has a great style.
Oh my God.
And her Pinterest
Yes.
board, I know, really helped.
She's got awesome style, and Jen and the costume designers have endless patience to go vintage clothing shopping, because I don't. But my favorite moment from season 2 wardrobe was that they found this T-shirt that they really loved that was about something pillow fighting championship, and they're like, the legal department won't clear it, but we love it. Isn't this great? And so I'd been listening to Starlee Kine's show Mystery, that podcast she had, and so I tweeted her and I said, here's a mystery, Starlee. Who made this T-shirt? And within 5 minutes, someone wrote me back that it was a fire department in California, and so I forced the legal department to get clearance on it, and I was able to wear it. So
Oh, that's so great.
I wielded the power of the internet for good.
That's great.
Well, right before we get to audience questions, do you guys want to say anything? What should viewers expect, sort of? They've seen a little bit of season 2, but...
David Spade.
David Spade.
Yeah.
There's a lot of David Spade as Arya's dad.
So great.
As like a struggling actor dad with a very successful daughter, and he's really funny. And
Randall Park.
Randall Park is also.
Oh, and someone you know, Paula Pell.
Oh, yeah. Love her.
Legendary SNL writer Paula
Yes.
Pell plays my boss. She's amazing.
It's great. Yeah. And a lot of the writers on the show, the people who make it are big fans of Diner, the Barry Levinson movie, and so we cast Daniel Stern as Mickey's father, and it was nice because it was our little, I think, tip of the hat to Diner, and Home Alone to some extent. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay, let's get to these audience questions.
Oh, let's.
Ooh,
guys.
yeah.
Shall we?
Y'all look so sexy out there. Just straight up pandering.
Leave him alone.
Sorry.
Define love.
Oh, boy. Love is caring, love is kind. Go, Paul.
Somebody said to me once, it was like, I don't know if this is necessarily a definition, but they were like, don't be afraid to be the person who says, I love you more. And that's scary, yeah, but I try to live by that.
Judd?
I was sitting next to my girlfriend from many decades ago on the plane once, and the plane was kind of empty, and she's like, you don't have to sit right next to me, the plane is empty. And and then halfway through she said, you say I love you too much. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a rough trip.
You ran up to the pilot, like just started taking the plane down. Let's get out of this.
So not
So
that.
not that.
Okay.
Let me ask a less deep one. There's a lot of the audience's questions are very deep.
You hate all those questions.
Yeah, I'm
Shuffled.
like, forget, pass. This show is very LA. Could it take place elsewhere? How important is the setting?
Well, I think we thought that there was an opportunity to show a version of LA that you don't see on TV. It's weird that there are a lot of shows that take place in Los Angeles, but you really don't see Los Angeles. Like they hide it in a strange way. So all the places that you would visit, kind of like how Girls covers New York and Brooklyn, we thought, well, there's a version of that that's Silver Lake and that area that you just don't see in anything, even when they shoot there. LA always looks like an episode of Barnaby Jones or something. Like you don't see the restaurants that you actually go to, so we just thought, let's just go to all the places that we go.
Yeah, I think also it was the idea. I think it could be in any city, but the fact that we were shooting in LA, we made the choice of like maybe the joke is that everybody is on the periphery of the entertainment industry. So nobody has like a great job, but they can,
Right.
when they call their parents, they can go like, I am the script supervisor. And then they go, oh, that sounds good. You're working on CSI Toledo. You know?
Yeah.
But it's funny, you know, growing up in Iowa, like you would see stuff. I would watch movies and TV shows. I'm like, why does everything take place in LA or New York? It's always in these cities. You know, there's other parts of the country, you know. And then I moved out to LA, and within a week, I was like, why would anybody shoot outside of the city? It's like, it's great.
You know what I just realized is that my reference was 42 years old.
Barnaby Jones?
Yeah. Like my reference to amuse you. Now here's how old I am now. That's a 42-year-old reference. That's why you didn't laugh. That's like if in 1970 I made a reference from 1928.
The name of the show is still funny. I didn't have
yeah.
to know
That's
what
right.
you were talking about. Barnaby Jones.
I mean, I could have referenced Dawson's Creek and it would have been old.
That's true.
Someone wanted to know, this sounds like someone's having a specific issue that they need help with.
Do they deserve love?
What advice do you have for someone that doesn't mesh well with their writing partner?
Oh, gosh. Break up.
This does remind me of like when, you know, when you were in junior high and you had the like sex ed thing and people are too embarrassed to ask a question.
I'm sorry to that person. Yeah.
So you write it down and then it's like, is it okay to pee blood? You're like, whoa.
Have you ever peed blood?
All the time, buddy. No. Blood is white, right? Ew. Lost ya. This was a classy affair.
You
I
always
was talking about cum.
They knew!
Guess you didn't catch it. I was talking about cum.
You always throw me because sometimes his sense of humor is very sweet and gentle and kind of almost like annoyingly like punny, and then it goes jizz on you.
Then it goes jizz on you. Yeah. Which was a pun and a dirty joke.
Yeah, exactly.
And
One piece of advice I gave Seth Rogen once, but he always quotes it, is we were talking about something, I think, in Superbad, and I said, I don't know, I think the simple note is, less jizz, more heart. Doesn't that make sense?
It's a good lesson for writing, for life.
For life, for everything.
Sex.
Don't be afraid. Look how you've influenced
Barbecues.
Gillian.
But no, if you're not gonna, with your, I don't know.
Don't try to get it back on track.
Yeah.
I think if you're not meshing with your writing partner, I mean, you weren't asking me, but
Definitely break up with your writing partner unless
yeah.
your writing partner is Tina Fey.
Yeah.
Then maybe just ride her out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
You're supposed to get along. If you don't, have the same sensibility, and if you don't like being in the same room together.
I guess so, yeah. I
What's the
wouldn't.
problem?
I don't know how that person reached that moment because I think like.
Do you want to come on stage and really tell us the whole story?
You start.
Seriously, whoever that person is, do you want to come on stage? No?
They're sitting next to their writing partner. Nope.
Do both of you
Why did
want
I
to come
even
on
do
stage?
that? It wasn't even me. No, I think if you started collaborating with a person, it was probably because you enjoyed hanging out with them. So
Yeah.
I don't get the question.
Yeah?
things
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't get the fucking stupid question.
change, you know? Say like, let's work on this thing, and then put very little effort into it, and then be like, and I'm also gonna work on this other thing. And then slowly it'll kind of happen.
Yeah.
Is that good advice? Okay. Do you think social media helps or hinders
Well, if you find love on Instagram, then I'm sure it helps.
Do people find love on Instagram?
Yeah.
They do?
Yeah.
How would that work? You'd put up a
Slide
picture of
into
yourself?
the DM.
Oh, you slide into the DM. How do you slide into a DM?
You write someone and you say, "Want to fuck?" And then.
But is that
you do.
public? That's a
No,
public?
no, that's a DM. It's a direct message. It's between you and that person.
Oh, but they don't have to accept you to
You
get
can
the direct
click
message.
the thing where it's like now they can send you messages and you can go back
Yeah.
and forth. Or maybe they just start commenting cute things on your photos and then you comment cute things on their photos and then you like their comments on your photos. This is all speculation on
Well, and
my
Gillian
part.
told me, it made me aware that, on Instagram there are direct messages. And I was like, oh, really?
They're so hard to find.
Yeah, and I finally found it,
Right?
and it was like 15, and I was like, ooh, time for horniness, you know? Time for some real horniness. And I clicked on it, and it was all literally each one like, you remind me of my little brother. I was like, yeah, right.
I had an Instagram comment the other day from Alanis Morissette.
Whoa.
But it wasn't like that.
No.
It was just commenting on a photo. Not.
What if she was like, what if you had an Instagram? You liked it, but it didn't go through.
I'm trying to figure out which song
Gillian.
you're parody. He's
Isn't
doing a
it
parody.
ironic?
He's doing ironic.
Yeah,
Don't
right.
you think?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, next question, great.
Okay.
I thought you were going to do You Ought to Know.
Oh, yeah. What do you think the DMs were between her and Coulier, huh? Meet you at the theater later.
I
Yeah.
think maybe social media would, I don't think social media was really a thing. Maybe that would have helped them. Because she could have said, look, I got these problems with you, and if we don't resolve them, I'm going to write a song. And maybe he would have said, well, let's meet at the cafe or.
Let's work it out. I hear you.
Yeah.
You're stating your feelings to me, Atlantis. I got to get back onto the set of Full House, but let's work this out.
Yeah. Next one. What made you guys fall in love with your spouses or your boyfriend or, you know?
Yeah.
That's very personal.
I know. I didn't write it as a person. Another person.
I met my wife, Lesley, at a mutual friend's birthday party, and I was sweet on her. I'm going to drop a hot name here, but Sarah Silverman was at the party. Yeah.
Okay.
And Lesley was like, liked me, and so she came up and she's like, hey, to Sarah, she was like, hey, do you know this Paul Russ guy? What's he like? And Sarah was like, oh, he's a good guy. He's nice. And then she was like, Lesley was like, is he Jewish? And Sarah Silverman said, if he's not, his face should sue God.
Do you think Sarah just pulled that out of her
I
ass?
think so.
Is that a phrase
I
she
think
uses,
that's-
or
She's just
That's-
that brilliant.
that's as funny as
Yeah.
it's.
But when I
Sarah is on a couple episodes of Crashing in a couple
Yeah.
of weeks, and is so funny.
good.
She's a killer.
She's the best.
Yeah.
It's so great.
But yeah, when I met Lesley that night, she walked into the room and I saw her and I thought to myself, I truly was like, oh, this is the person who in junior high, like I imagined I always hoped I would get to meet, which was this like cool punk rock girl who was very smart and super funny and cracked me up, and she still makes me laugh every day.
Wait, those are your wedding vows, you said.
You can recycle those. There's a new audience.
I don't have a spouse, so I don't have to answer this personal question. Judd?
It said spouse or boyfriend.
I still saw spouse. My boyfriend.
This
I
is a
get
live.
very embarrassed talking about personal things
Yeah.
in public.
It's a live stream, so don't worry.
Okay.
He's listening.
He's a very he's the first person I felt like I could rely on that I've ever dated.
Yeah.
That's a pretty low bar.
No, that's not
But he's a fundamentally good person,
Yes.
and he almost got stabbed for me. So that was like a real clear moment where it's like, this is a good guy.
Chris is a good man.
Yes.
Yep.
He fought for you.
He fought for me. He fought one of my neighbors for me. So that was a wild night.
And then the neighbor's still there, and you still have to deal with the
No, the
post-stabbing?
neighbor got evicted. Was also harassing one of my other neighbors. Never told this story. Was threatening people with knives. He'd also been in a in a forced psych hold, a 5150, I think. The cops had taken him to. Yes, it was a very exciting time. And he was harassing my neighbor, and I called Chris, and he ran over, and he told the guy to get out of there, and the guy said he was going to stab him with his knife, and Chris was like, yeah, go ahead, stab me with your knife, and then he pulled out like a machete from a duffel bag and was trying to stab Chris. So that was the night I knew.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, because I don't think you're telling the story right. The story should be he saved me from a guy with a machete.
Oh, yes, so sorry.
You made it smaller.
Oh, yeah. It was a machete, so that makes it doubly large.
He really risked his life.
Really risked his life. Turned out that neighbor, we didn't really know his real name. He was receiving mail under a lot of different names, one of which was Johnny Couch.
So Kalo Caton? Kato Kalen? Well, I met my wife when we were meeting people for the cable guy. She walked in and she had to read with me because Jim Carrey wasn't at that audition, and I was doing the cable guy voice. So the first time I met her, I'm just like, so how's it going? You want some salmon? And that's how I had to speak to her for the first time. And then she walked out, and I turned to Ben Stiller and I said, that's so weird that Mrs. Apatow would just walk right in and sit down next to me. And she didn't remember any of this. She did not have that reaction. And then the stalking began.
Well, what sweet little story.
Yeah.
So the show has already been greenlit for a third season, which is very exciting.
And Friday is when it's on Netflix. So I guess that's Thursday at midnight.
Yes.
So will you guys like eat it up, like
Thursday
watch a
at
lot of
midnight,
it
you
at
can
once?
start watching.
Is it a binge, like a 2-time binge? Is it a 1-sitting binge?
We're all giving you permission to call in sick for work on Friday.
Well, if you start watching at midnight Thursday night, you can be done by 10 a.m., right?
Yeah.
Oh,
So then,
yeah.
or by
yeah.
5 a.m.
Yeah.
So then you
I
go
don't
to
binge
work.
fast. Is this binging? I have been watching Breaking Bad for 5 years. I watch one every 7 weeks.
It's addictive.
You're watching.
It's a slow binge. It is the slowest binge.
It's a
I'm doing
slow
that with
binge.
Young Pope as well. It's a slow
Slow
binge.
binge. Yeah. So you can start watching season 2 Thursday at midnight.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then is there something, is there anything about season 3? I know you don't want to give any spoilers, but is there anything like kind of fun or?
Any good hooks? Well, stuff goes down
Yeah.
In the
in the what?
DM.
In the D. Oh yeah. You get slipped in to what?
Yeah, slip it down into the DM.
Yeah. It's,
yeah.
things happen. It kicks up a notch.
Kicks up. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
There's a lot of sex.
That's what.
They didn't like that.
They really went silent.
Not a lot.
They
Not
wa-
a lot.
It wasn't like a big woo.
Just
Yeah.
some. This is a sophisticated audience.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
No, I think
Yeah.
their apprehension was they thought, with him?
Paul just wrote an episode for the 3rd season where he wrote a whole sequence that is predicated on the fact that one ball is hanging out of his underwear.
Yeah.
And I haven't had the chance to ask him, because I just read it, was just what were your intentions and dreams for that sequence? And
It started as a dream. I woke up with this dream and a vision in my head. No, it's just straight up trying to get a hard laugh in the first minute of the show. Just completely pandering.
But why do you think that is a hard laugh? Why couldn't it just be like a, ooh?
Oh, like
People just like it, and there's no humor. It's just like, nice nut.
I don't ever have that opinion of myself.
I love the fact that Henry Kissinger spoke on this stage. I just like being part of the tradition here.
Yes, yes.
He used the nut out of his underwear for comedy purposes. That was my Kissinger. Tell Lorne. Let him know.
Well,
Not too late.
it sounds like Paul's got places to be. So on that note, thank you all so much for coming out.
Thank you for doing
guys.
this.